My name is Elizabeth Woodfield. What was your favorite movie as a child? When I was little, I loved the movie The Lion King. When I was around 4 years old, my friend Caitlin and I watched it almost every morning. We especially loved to act out the scenes as if we were roaming the plains of Africa. Houseplants would be moved to the living room. We would wear orange and yellow clothes from our bedroom as if we were lions, and we went all out. Caitlin had beautiful long blonde hair that floated down to her ankles. On one particular morning, I had a brilliant idea. We would do her hair to replicate the look of a lion's mane. We tried and tried to fluff it up and put in elastics to make it stick out around her face, but it was so long it just fell flat. But of course, we needed to cut it. I thought I was brilliant. I ran to the kitchen to get the scissors from our junk drawer. My mom had yet to realize that she needed to store them somewhere else. Moments later, we were caught cutting Caitlin's hair. Not before I had cut off over half of her hair above her shoulders. My mom could smell mischief from her home office when she heard my little feet eagerly running in and out of the kitchen. My mom was aghast but found it rather funny and creative. On the other hand, Caitlin's mom had loved her long hair and didn't talk to us for weeks afterwards. Needless to say, this ended our morning movie marathons together, but has made for one of the best childhood memories. Oh, to be a kid again. Ta-da!
Excellent, excellent. Actually, the good things about you was the delivery and also the turning point where you talked about it pretty much got us at the edge. You did a great way, you presented it quite well and got us involved into that story. And how could you improve upon it? Now, that's a hard one. I thought that would have been the easy one. Um, I'm not quite sure actually, because you had great enthusiasm, eye contact, everything was so flowing and natural. I don't have a negative right now that I can think of.
Thank you, Louie.
Yeah, so kind of that two strings is easy because you really did really good. So like you started directly to the story. I like it, and it was honest and funny also. I enjoyed it. The only thing kind of I feel is not fair because we have only 2 minutes and I will be doing the same thing. I felt like you going fast, but I understand that why, because we have only 2 minutes. So it's not really something to improve. Uh, I don't know, like I cannot think of something. But that I felt like I'm catching the first idea, then you started the other one. But that's because we have only 2 minutes. I don't think you have anything to do with that. But yeah, that I cannot think of about area to improve. But I like it. Other than that,
Thank
yeah.
you. Yeah, I will say I'm a very fast talker, so I actually do think
Yeah.
there's room for improvement there.
Yeah,
But
and we
thank
have
you.
2 minutes only.
Yeah, it goes really fast for sure.
I loved the story. It was funny. And I'm being a parent, just like that tragic moment of getting the haircut, right? Because it always happens. Sometimes at some point it happens. But I loved how you talked about your struggle with the hair. And I liked how, you were like, hey, my mom needed to like you found a truth. So you were saying, hey, my mom should have hidden those scissors, right? Yeah. And maybe as a mom, you're like, okay, that's the lesson I learned. Hide the scissors.
Yep, I'm the oldest, so my mom learned all the hard lessons from me.
An opportunity. I think one thing, like, I don't know if, did you like write out your script and read it?
A little bit. I had it in front of me so I could kind of refer back to it. I practiced it over a dozen times, so I had a lot of it memorized, but I did have it kind of there as a reference to the side so I could refer to it if I needed to, just to kind of keep myself on track.
I think it's hard, right? Because like Suleiman said, you have 2 minutes and you want to make sure you get what you want in the 2 minutes. And I just think you're a great storyteller and you could probably do it off the cuff a little more instead of sounding practiced.
that's something I want to practice a little bit more with this class, is taking the opportunities to be better at doing that on the cuff and really sharing concise, impactful statements that can have, that can carry forward, with your audience. Cause that's something I struggle with. I tend to be a bit redundant and share the same things over and over and a little bit long-winded that way. And so that's something I want to work on for sure.
Well, I think you did great. So thanks,
guys.
Thanks for going first.
Thank you, guys. Okay, Lewis, your turn.
Okay. So I guess I should have gone first because that was a good, happy story. And now mine's a little darkish because it did say a scary moment in our life. So I want to talk. I'll start off once I say my name. Okay. So my name is Luis Valdez. 14 years old, New Year's Eve. We were out and about in a little barrio. It's a little small city in Hermosillo, Sonora, where we were out and about getting fireworks for New Year's and mischief. But on our way back, one of the guys that was taking us to buy these fireworks was stumbling with another kid. I started an argument that resulted in a family coming out and the elderly moms hitting the kid, and myself standing up for that kid that I didn't know but knew that it was wrong. Then the fathers would come out. Then in a society where guns are banned, he pulls out a gun, and me unknowingly, not knowing what to do, looking down at the barrel, my first thought was to look at my brother and tell him to run. And in that time, took the time to be physically assaulted. But at that time, I made sure that my brother was gone, so he had enough time to run because he was at 9 years old. Then when that's calmed down a little bit, I took off. And once we were all in the clear, I saw my brother was still there, and unfortunately had to stop and make sure that he had adequate time. Fortunately, we were able to get back home safely and sound, but it taught us a big lesson to be sure where we're at in our surroundings and to never stray far, especially in Mexico.
Wow, that story left an impression, Luis. That is a very serious story. You did an excellent job on the delivery. I think that you helped kind of make that ease and transition, especially where you were coming from a very different, my story was very different, and like you acknowledged that we were going to make a bit of a transition emotionally. I think that really helped set the stage for the audience. Separately, I think you did a really good job. I particularly liked how you tied it back to what you learned and how, there's some lessons that can apply to other areas of life as well. And that was a really strong conclusion. My advice to you would be set the stage a little bit more. Like everyone else is saying, right? Like 2 minutes is so fast, but it felt like it was a little bit abrupt starting. I was a little bit lost for a second, kind of piecing everything together, and then I was like, okay, now I get what's going on and I can see everything. But my advice would just be set the stage a little bit more for your audience so that it's easier to follow the story. But overall, you did a great job.
Thank you.
Yeah, for me, I kind of agree on everything. I loved it. I even had a pause after it, that how it affected me. I liked it a lot, that story. I really felt like it's coming truth on from your heart. The only thing is kind of, and it's advantage and disadvantage at the same time. So it's good thing and bad thing is like at the beginning, maybe because the story was too strong, I forget the beginning, and I was like, how did he end up to be in that position again? Just because the story was maybe too strong, that made me maybe, and I have also weak memory. But your ending also helped me to remember how it started, and that's what I loved about it. And I think it's normal maybe to forget the beginning. I'm not sure, but that's how at the beginning, while you were speaking, I found myself like zoom out a little just to remember how did that started. But yeah, maybe, and again, it's also 2 minutes, so I understand why that happened. And also, as being myself, maybe I will be nervous. So the beginning until you kind of like in cruise control, it take a while. So I understand it totally, but that's the only thing. And I feel like I will be doing the same mistake now when it's my turn. Yeah.
Thank you.
Luis, that's a scary story.
Oh yeah.
That had really, there's a lot of detailed, I could see this story happening, and I got chills from the, thinking about your brother running away. And I really liked how it just seemed like it came from it was like speaking your truth about, standing up for your friend or the person you didn't know, but was sort of your friend in the moment. And I just liked how it did have like a good flow. And I would just agree with Liz and Suleiman about the beginning. I think it's a powerful story, and maybe like Suleiman said, it was so powerful I forgot the beginning. But I think because you have such a powerful story, and when you tell something like that, it would be great to have like a powerful beginning.
Yeah, thank you. And yeah, I do agree. Doing a better job of setting up that stage and our time restrictions.
Mm-hmm.
Our biggest hurdle. Well, thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Louis, I just want to add one more thing actually really quick on the heels of what they just said. I think one thing I really appreciated was kind of like Suleiman was saying, the imagery that you created, the details that you had in your story. Even though I struggled a little bit at the beginning to follow, I all of a sudden caught myself in the middle of the story. When you said that you saw yourself staring down the barrel of the gun, I felt like I was there, like in your shoes, and you really painted the imagery of the scene and like what the emotion of what was going on very well, and I was really impressed by that. So that's, I think, a strong characteristic of a good storyteller. So I wanted to acknowledge that as well.
Thank you.
Okay, Suleiman.
Yeah, now I will look really bad. You guys were really good, so hopefully. Let me just organize my screen because yeah, and which, oops. Yeah, so 10 years ago, I came from Jordan as a immigrant to USA. It was kind of like, hard time to come to USA to find a job. It was like 2008, so the economy was really bad. I came with, the only thing I know is like my parents were kind of my hero and they were my best friends, and now I am alone because they are back home. I was fresh graduate trying to find a new job, and got rejected a lot of times because even a bank company got bankrupt, or they just did a recent layoff, or because I'm not also USA graduate, so even intern jobs I couldn't have, or junior jobs because they only do it for fresh graduate. I came from Jordan, where surrounded with a lot of conflicts, and that the Arabic Spring was just started at that time. And I decided to work as a volunteer in Huntsman, full-time volunteer as a software engineer, which that is my major. And that gave me a lot of background, a lot of stable, but also I got a lot of discriminated when I came here. Like most of them were direct speech, and but a lot of them were also indirect way, kind of like they don't say anything, but I feel it. And last year, it was also hard for me. My father passed away in summer and in August, and 1 week before this class, my mother passed away too. So my heroes and my best friends are away now. But I decided to be positive and stronger and raise my goals a little higher. And because being negative really doesn't help. And that is what I learned from my life. Thank you. Sorry.
Suleiman, you're going to make me cry. I don't know if I want to go first on this feedback because I am feeling a little emotional after your story, Suleiman. But, first of all, I just have to say it was incredibly inspirational. And thank you, thank you for being so vulnerable with us. I think that that's also, so important as a storyteller to, display emotion and show that at the end of the day, we're all human and we're all imperfect. And, we all have struggles. And so I think you painted that beautifully. So very, very inspirational. I guess the other thing I would say too is it really came from the heart, right? So kind of along the lines of how vulnerable it was, I think those are the two things that you did incredibly well. It felt very sincere and very authentic. And that's, of course, also really important. In terms of improvement, I would just say, I think it could have a little bit more impact if you, similar to kind of the feedback we shared with Louis as well, is weave your theme through the introduction, throughout the story, and through the conclusion. I think it could just have a little bit more impact if we understood the power of your message starting off. I think that's a really hard thing to do. I think, especially with this story, I think it's interesting because this wasn't spanning like one specific period of time, but was rather over the course of several years in your experience as an immigrant in America. And I guess my advice would just be to work on weaving together the pieces of your story a little bit better, so it has a little bit more of a natural transition and flow. But either way, it made me cry and it was inspiring. So thank you for sharing.
So again, yeah, like how she mentioned, opening yourself up, that was a great thing. As storytellers, how our assignment that we read was trying to get the whole audience involved. And I think you did that perfectly by letting us know how you were separated from your family and friends that you knew from Jordan and being alone. I think everybody has that moment in their life where they feel like they're alone. So you got us back in that situation. Then with the pulling in the emotions of, again, I'm so sorry for your loss, but being able to relay that to us was very personable, and it emphasized your story so much more to another level. And I do appreciate you taking the time and telling us this very personal story. One thing for improvement, maybe I do agree with Elizabeth. I think it's for all of us starting off. Elizabeth did a great job with her story, but I think with myself, when you start off, it's kind of like you have to get into that rhythm. But once you get into that rhythm, you nailed it. So probably just work on the introduction. That would be the room for improvement from my end.
It was very heartfelt, and I do want to say thank you for being vulnerable. Like everybody else said, that was really brave. And one thing that I really liked in your story is that you really had a good struggle going on. You did present a struggle and then a turning point. And I think that your story was told very with truth and like you were telling a story. And I liked how you closed with, something that you discovered, which was that you're going to be positive and strong and move forward with your life. And I would like an opportunity to improve, maybe would be, I think that you have a powerful story, and probably the only thing I can really do is agree with Elizabeth and Louise in just creating that structure so that it's powerful throughout. And I think that's all you could really improve. And I think that everybody works on that, telling stories. So it's good practice. Good to know. Like, who knew like all the things you need to know about telling a story? I didn't.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, good feedback. I kind of felt it after I spoke. Like, you guys' feedback make a lot of sense. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. One other quick thing, Suleiman, I just had a couple questions. Well, first and foremost, let me say I wish that I could hear more of your story. So that's a story for another day, but I would love to hear more about your story. But did your parents pass away in Jordan then, and were you able to travel back?
The last couple of years they came to USA,
Okay.
so they were in USA. So
I'm glad you were able to spend that time with them. That's that's something I'm sure you're really grateful for. But I have a number of friends that have come as immigrants, and it's been really hard for them because their parents were in their home country and they weren't able to travel home to see them. And my heart aches for them. So even though it's still hard, nothing makes it easier. At that time is really special. So good. I'm glad to hear it.
Thank you. Yeah.
All right, I guess it's my turn, huh?
Yep, it's all you.
All right. I'm Emily Arasuma. And have you ever been in a moment where you thought things cannot get worse? Things possibly cannot get worse, and they get worse. So Amy and I, that's my wife, were driving in a blizzard for hours with a U-Haul truck from Salt Lake to Boise. And we finally saw a sign, like we were in a literal blizzard, not kind of a blizzard, but kind of a heavy snowstorm. We were in a blizzard. And we saw finally a sign that said 16 miles to Boise. And we thought, okay, we're almost there. 16 miles will be there and we won't have to drive in this blizzard anymore. And a huge gust of wind blew our truck sideways off of the road. And we went and we dove off into an abyss, a dark abyss. I thought for sure, like my whole body, I truly remember thinking, I'm going to die, because you never know what's on the side of a road in the middle of the night. And I didn't know if it was going to be a cliff, but we rolled the truck. The truck rolled and rolled down this hill. And we ended up, I was driving and Amy was the passenger, and we had our seatbelts on. And when the truck stopped, I was laying on the ground, like my side of the truck was on the ground and Amy was up above me with the seatbelt. And this guy appeared out of nowhere. He had run down the hill. He saw us go off the road. He ran down the hill and he was pounding on the, what is that called? The windshield. And he was like, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm okay." And Amy's like, "Yeah, I'm okay." And she undoes her seatbelt and she lands on top of me. I was not okay after that. She crushed me. I don't think she really in the moment thought that gravity was gonna like have her fall on top of me, but she did. And we ended up getting out, and hours later we had 2 tow trucks pull our U-Haul up. And the thing that I'm gonna say is, whenever they offer you insurance and you're gonna drive from one state to another, get full coverage, because we did randomly and it paid for everything.
Wow, that is quite the story, Emily. I don't even know where to start. I also feel like I experienced multiple emotions, which I think is probably my main piece of feedback. Like, what an amazing storyteller to be able to exhibit both this like feeling of fear and anxiety, but also like this sense of humor carried throughout. I was really impressed by your delivery, just to be able to do that. I also thought you did a great job starting off strong. It felt very relatable right off the bat. We've all been there, right? Like we've all had a bad day that just you couldn't think could get any worse, and then it does. So just very relatable. And my last positive piece of feedback is it was really good speed. You talk at a pace that makes it really easy to follow. And I'm really impressed by that because that's something I have to work on. But you're very consistent, almost like a teleprompter, but I'm sure you didn't have one. And I'm impressed by that because I am not good at that at all. So I think you did a great job there. In terms of areas for improvement, I think this one is hard. Honestly, I don't really have anything for this one. I guess the only thing I can kind of think of, I liked your ending, but at the same time, it left me feeling a little bit empty. Like, wait, I want more. Like, I don't care about the insurance. Like, okay, but like I wanted more story. I didn't want to hear about insurance. So I guess that's the only thing that I was kind of like, oh,
my ending was weak. I'm gonna totally agree.
No, but you did an excellent job, and it was just so fun. So fun. I love that story. And I'm really glad you didn't die. And I'm also really glad that, I guess they're letting us upgrade for unlimited this time. But I think you did an excellent job, and it was just really a fun story. So I'm glad you didn't die. And I don't know how you made it funny that Amy fell on top of you, but it somehow was funny. And
I know. Seriously, that is one of the funniest moments in my life. Like, I thought we were going to die, and then all of a sudden she's like, undoes her seatbelt and lands on top of me, like totally after the guy's like, are you okay? And we're like, we're okay.
It totally seems like something you'd see in a movie.
I know.
Like as a, comic relief, that's what it felt like. It was pretty great.
That's my life with Amy. So you just got to picture into it.
I love it.
That was a great story, Emily, and definitely love the imagery that how you did, like myself, how we talk about me starting off my story, setting up the stage. I think you did a fantastic job with that. You put me in that place, in that blizzard, being able to just not think, oh, it's just a little snowstorm. No, it was a full-blown blizzard, and I don't know how you were driving, but you were making it. You were 60 miles short, unfortunately.
It was so sad.
So sad. So you're almost there. And I love how the balance and tone that you had throughout your story, that it was easy to follow with. And that's why it's kind of hard, just like how Elizabeth mentioned, that it's hard to give you a con. Maybe it would be like the hand gestures. I know that they talk about when you use your hand gestures, sometimes they distract the audience at times. So that would probably be my little nitpicky, because right now I have to nitpick.
That's okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I really love that. I felt like I'm listening to those kind of stories they say on the radio, on the KSL radio sometimes. The serious, funny ones. I don't know. I love that the way that you say the story was. I was able to describe it even if I wasn't there. I like see it like even if I wasn't there. The way you describe it. I like also the speed that you went with. And kind of I liked everything in it. Kind of I don't want like I will feel like I would repeat everything they said because I agree with everything they said, like 100%. The only thing is because we need to say area of improvement, not like it's very needed, but it's kind of part of the assignment. The only thing I felt like, and also I feel like I have it in myself, is kind of the power, like in the Clinton, for example, speech that they had, that he was able to change his tone and kind of like, so that kind of a strength in you, that you were able to make it kind of consistent, but kind of the tone, I'm not sure, maybe could have helped. Like when the car went down, that seems very serious, but you stayed in the same tone, which is it is advantage at the same time. So that's why I only say it, just because we have to say an area of improvement. So it's kind of like you did, like in that area, like maybe 9.5 of 10, and that is only the half that will complete 10 of 10, if that makes sense. So
thank you, Suleiman.
Yeah.
Yes, I appreciate that. It's hard to give feedback. It's good to learn how to do it, and unfortunately, we'll get to practice it on each other throughout our.
It's a good experience, though, especially to give it live like this, right? Like face to face. It's a good experience for us. I feel like this is like my real life at work, where I dread giving feedback, only because I feel like anytime I have to share positive feedback, there's always some, but with some constructive feedback in there too. But this is at least fun.
Yeah.
Awesome.